everybody. Welcome to the show, The Court of Public Opinion. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. Peter Clayton's behind the camera. We're in the garage. And my daughter Amber is here. We've just been to lunch, and Pete's trying to get her to step in and say something. Come in here and say hello. I'm sure everyone would love to meet you. We went down to the Empress in Adelaide, which is it's a wonderful old restaurant, Chinese restaurant in Adelaide. If ever you come to our city or anywhere in the world, you come here, people in Adelaide would know about it. I would think it's been around for a long, long time.
I think it has been.
Yeah. The food is wonderful. I've been to China. Not all Chinese food is wonderful, I must tell you. But this is Mandarin, I think, isn't it?
Is it? I don't know. I just know that it's very
Cantonese.
Good. It's very good. So we have the go-to restaurant of ours for our daddy-daughter lunches.
Yes.
And that is the Empress.
No, it is lovely.
Sorry.
And this is not a commercial because...
No.
We don't as yet have a sponsor for the Court of Public Opinion.
We don't get free lunches there.
We don't get free lunches. No. Nothing like that.
No, I'm joking.
She's my daughter, you know. Amazing.
Anyway, I will leave you to it.
All right, okay. Well, nice of you to drop by.
Thanks.
Okay.
Anytime.
Stay around, and if you want to contribute to the show, just yell. Pete, everyone yells. Anyone who comes by the garage yells. Anyway, welcome to the program. Actually, at lunch, just to show you the ridiculous world in which we live, Amber was showing me a website where they sell stuff. And what was the website?
Well, Facebook Marketplace.
Facebook Marketplace. And on Facebook Marketplace, believe it or not, they had a maple leaf. An ordinary, everyday maple leaf. All right, it was in autumn colours. Very pretty. They wanted $50 for it. Can you believe somebody, I mean no disrespect, autumn leaves are beautiful, precious, but somebody thought one autumn leaf, somebody would pay $50 for an autumn leaf. Now, a fig leaf, with all its biblical Garden of Eden kind of connotations, I might have understood. Anyway, I digress. Before we get into the stuff of the day, of which, of course, there is plenty, some of the birthdays. Oh, by the way, a couple of people have said to me, don't go on with the birthdays forever. I try to just get the interesting ones, you know, the things for which we mark the day. For example, May the 16th. 1884. Italian inventor Angelo Moradero receives a patent for the first espresso machine. 1884. Now that's amazing. Pete?
Yeah.
A coffee machine. Espresso. Amazing. I don't know. Operation Chastise. Actually, I've been a great fan of the whole dam buster business during the Second World War. People like Barnes Wallis, who invented the bouncing bomb, and Guy Gibson, who was later Sir Guy Gibson, VC. A great fan. I never knew that the operation was called Chastise. Anyway, number 617 Squadron, RAF, begins the famous Dam Busters raid, bombing dams in the Ruhr Valley with the bouncing bomb. And there was talk about them remaking the movie called The Dam Busters, but they couldn't do it because in this crazy woke world, Guy Gibson's dog, most loyal, wonderful dog, used to sit at the side of the Nissan hut where all the pilots came back to after the raid. This beautiful black Labrador. If you've seen the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. In the movie and in real life, that dog was a black Labrador called Nigger. And they are wringing their hands because they can't remake the movie and use that word because it is verboten. My understanding of it is that nigger is Spanish for black. So what? Is it a pejorative? I don't know. But it seems so strange that things that were in common use, I don't even know if they at the time insulted people or offended people. But anyway, be that as it may, it was a very interesting day in 1943 that the dam busters took off and history was made. I hope they remake the movie, maybe. The Beach Boys released their famous groundbreaking album called Pet Sounds, containing the hit singles The Sloop John B. Come on, the Sloop John B. And Wouldn't It Be Nice? And God Only Knows. Beach Boys were incredibly talented. 1966 was the year. Joan of Arc was canonized a saint. In 1920, Bob Hawke, Prime Minister of Australia, dies at the age of 89. That's 2019. Great Britain performs the first nuclear test at Montebello in Australia. I don't wonder why they don't do it in their own backyard. Why here? Anyway, I've got nothing against nuclear power, but I don't think we need the polluting end of it in our backyard. That seems to be rather unfair. That was 1956. The world's first electric tram enters service near Berlin on this day in 1881. The Daily Planet. The Daily Planet in Metropolis fires Jimmy Olsen, cub reporter, fires Jimmy Olsen, fictional Superman character. It's all right, Jimmy. It happens to the best of us, or the worst of us. But you live to fight another day. Good boy. That was in 1991. Sweden formally announces that it will seek NATO. They'll seek the club, belonging to the club, NATO, after 200 years of neutrality in the wake of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And that's only sort of days after Finland did the same thing. The first Academy Awards on this day in 1929. The movie was called Wings, about which I know nothing. Emile Jennings and Janet Gaynor. I know about Janet Gaynor, I don't know about Emile, but they were the winners. 1929. The first regularly scheduled transatlantic flights between, Idlewild Airport in New York, great name, isn't it? Idlewild International Airport, and Heathrow in London, operated by El Al Israeli Airlines. Wow, that was 1951. Sammy Davis Jr., whom I love, and there's a great picture of Sammy Davis and I over there. Or is that Sammy Davis and me? English language.
Sammy Davis and me.
The English language is so weird, isn't it? Sammy Davis and me. Sammy Davis and me over there on the wall.
It's not me over there, it's I am over there. But anyway, we'll ask Mum.
We'll take it off the wall and show you. Anyway, I loved him. He was just a wonderful, wonderful performer. Henry Fonda, American stage and screen actor. There was Mr. Roberts, 12 Angry Men, on Golden Pond. He was born in Grand Island, Nebraska. He died in 1982, but he was born this day in 1905. Queen Elizabeth becomes the first British monarch to address the US Congress in 1991, and Eliot Ness, the American federal agent, The Untouchables. Great story, great series, The Untouchables. He put away Al Capone, dies of a heart attack on this day in 1957. He was only 54 years old. Some of the things for which we remember the day, and if you remember it for 1,000 different reasons, I hope it's going to be a very happy day. You know, all these people, these politicians are going to be running around the place for weeks to come, selling the budget. And the opposition will be out there selling their opposition to the budget. But the opposition budget speech in reply the other night was good. It was good. But Peter Dutton is Peter Dutton. He pointed out what most of the media haven't mentioned. Well, we did, I think, Pete, maybe 4 weeks ago. This is the low, middle income. If you're on a low income or a middle income, it was a thing that the government put in called the tax offset. Now, that is going to go. That's going to go. That means, as I said to you before, 10 million taxpayers would be $1,500 a year worse off. I think the media is running a protection racket for the government, because that's a significant amount of money and should be talked about at length by the media. Have you seen any mention of it? Nope. It's under the Canberra rug. They've swept it under there. He made the point that inflation was well above comparable countries, more importantly above our trading competitors, all based, I would argue, on the willful pursuit of renewables, when our trading partners enjoy our cheap coal, our cheap energy, which is of course the key to the cost of living, employment, prosperity. They enjoy it, but we are not allowed to. That is wacky. Wacko greenery. I don't know who's driving that. Not common sense, ladies and gentlemen. Peter Dutton was surprisingly good on his feet, I thought. He remembered us, or he reminded us of the pink bats and the overpriced school halls, which I would think Labor was trying to desperately forget. Then there was the logical reference to nuclear power and the great reserves of uranium that we have in Australia. It's a no-brainer. He seems in favour of getting rid of sports betting, advertising on television, although the compromise was we won't have it an hour before or an hour after live coverage of games. I think that's silly. Just get rid of it. He's in favour of reintroducing the cashless credit card for the most vulnerable of families. You can't argue with that, I wouldn't think. Another idea that came out of the budget speech in reply was allowing people who were looking for a job on JobSeeker to supplement that money by earning up to $150 a week without it affecting their benefit, which seems like a bloody sensible thing to do. Because who does it hurt? It's not inflationary, it's just good decision making. Dutton didn't mention the resources tax. I said the other day that the government should not start attacking the goose that's laying the golden egg. That is, in other words, that which brought us to a slim but important, if not symbolic, deficit. Well, we got rid of, it's a surplus, almost a deficit, but it's a surplus. By that I mean those people the miners who spend a fortune out there looking for and bringing valuable resources to the marketplaces of the world, where, of course, they are taxed here at home. Now, these people take incredible risk to search for and develop the market for the resources that we have. Gas, coal, iron ore, but gas and coal in particular. Everyone should pay his or her fair share of tax. I think that's a given. But you're entitled to deduct from your eventual profits the cost of the journey to get there. But in the case of these miners, explorers, it might take 10 or 15 years down the track before they show a profit. Now, the government now is going to want these guys to pay tax on their expectations before they've made a single cent. As I said to you before, capital is mobile. If you make life difficult for these people, there are other places to go. They will explore more favourable and more flexible and smarter countries, maybe, to our chagrin. That is a problem. Don't think they've even thought about it. The immigration target under Labor is set, it would seem, for 1.5 million in the next 5 years. Think about it. That's the population of Adelaide. 1.5 million. And as Pete said the other day when we were talking about it before, what are you going to do with those people? Where are you going to put them? Very good question. I would add, where are the schools? Where are the hospital beds? Where are the doctors? And in a wonderful sort of gotcha moment, Labor's Jim Chalmers, the Treasurer, says this, and I hope I've got the wording right. Jim Chalmers says, well, it's a good question. If Mr. Dutton is really worried about where these people will live, perhaps he could join with Labor to help pass the housing bill, which is before Parliament, which will build 30,000 new houses under the Housing Australia Affordability Future Fund. Who the hell thinks of these names? The Housing Australia Affordability Future Fund. Anyway, but listen, Jim, I can answer that question for you. The Australian people, the Australian taxpayer, should not be asked to pay billions to house people who simply decide they just might want to live here. Migrants shouldn't come to Australia unless they have skills that we need. And they can look after themselves and be self-sufficient. As all of those migrants, those wonderful people who helped build Australia in the 40s, 50s and 60s, they were self-sufficient. Now, we're not talking about refugees here. We're talking about people looking for a better place to live. There's no excuse really for any unemployment in Australia at the moment. Everyone should have a job. That's pretty obvious. There's plenty of work available. Just have to walk down the street, walk down Rundle Mall, walk down any street in Australia, and you'll see in the window, workers wanted, jobs available. I say to my own kids, look, it might not be the job you want, but it's a job. And that's the attitude the government's got to take. I guess we're going to have to... we'll have a campaign, I suppose, a long-winded one. It'll be choreographed and it'll be orchestrated. Probably by Labor and the Greens more than anyone else for the next couple of years. I'm talking about these staged tax cuts. This is the stage 3 tax cuts. They will, of course, want to scrap them. The government will want to scrap them. But let's look at a bit of history. The Stage 3 tax cuts were legislated because we were sceptical that when the former federal Liberal government was in, we were worried that they would actually deliver on their promise. A bit like Paul Keating's tax cuts, you know, the LAW tax cuts. And of course he reneged on that. But John Howard, who was probably the best treasurer we've ever had, as Prime Minister, came up with a plan to make Australia more productive and more competitive. That is, to reward people for effort. The corporate tax cut was down to 30%. The corporate tax rate fell to a very competitive 30%. His vision was in time, when we could afford it, to cut the personal income tax rate to 30% for all people earning $45,000 a year or more. Now, that's avoiding this terrible thing called bracket creep. That's where it doesn't matter what you earn or what increase in salary you get, you're going to lose it because you'll find yourself in a higher tax bracket. That's grossly unfair. Hence, they legislated to, in 2024, a couple of years away, after the next federal election, to do away with all those brackets above $45,000. Now, let me say, I've got no personal axe to grind here whatsoever, but I do have a sense of fairness and outrage that people, even financial reporters, people who should know, distort this whole story. And yes, they lie. They talk about billion-dollar tax breaks for the rich. They don't point out that people making over $200,000 a year will obviously be getting a greater benefit than people earning $45,000. That's because they pay much more tax in the first place. People earning $150,000, $120,000 will also get a benefit, but it'll be more than somebody earning $45,000. Well, of course they will, because they're earning more and paying more tax. You pay more tax and you get more benefit from the cut. Now, what is wrong with that? In principle, it's perfectly right, but could we have some journalists who point this out? It's so bleeding obvious and so sensible. Listen, thank you very much for viewing the Court of Public Opinion, ladies and gentlemen. See you tomorrow. Believe in yourself, and goodbye for now.